I'd like to call to order the Westmont Village Board meeting of October 24th, 2019, to order at 6 o'clock p.m. and ask Clerk Simsky for roll call.
Mayor Gunther.
Here.
The clerk's here. Trustee Addington.
Here.
Trustee Barker.
Here.
Trustee Barry.
Here.
Trustee Guzzo.
Here.
Trustee Little.
Here.
Trustee Nero.
Here.
Attorney Zemanek.
Here.
Village Manager May.
Here.
Finance Director Parker.
Here. Would everybody please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. The first item on the agenda is our open forum. As I discussed, if there's anybody here who wants to talk about anything that's not on the agenda, now's the time. Seeing no one, then I'll close open forum. We'll move on to reports. My reports first, and just a couple updates. The holidays is rapidly approaching. It's time to start thinking about it. The tree decorating day and the Lions Breakfast will be on Sunday, November the 24th. And then the Ugly Sweater Run, Frosty and Friends Parade, will be on Saturday, November the 30th. So it's coming real fast. One thing we're real proud of, this walking to Hsinchu County, our sister city. We had the challenge, this is the final week to get to our goals. We all have goals that we're going to compete with them. I'm proud of the fact that we're carrying on and reaching our goals. The 95th anniversary celebration, next board meeting, we will be celebrating our 98th year on November the 7th, and at that point we'll have our fourth installment of our historical mural project, as well as get an update on our historical booklet. We invite everyone to attend. That's November the 7th, right here. And I turn to Clerk Simsky.
I have a couple of information for everyone. The Veterans Day ceremony on November 11th at 11 a.m. It will be at a new location. It will be at the Westmont Junior High. The public is invited to attend. And during the month of November, free leaf pickup starts November 4th through the 29th. Residents can put out an unlimited amount of raked leaves. Leaves must be in the craft paper bags. No sticker is needed. Regular yard waste will still require a sticker, but get your leaves into bags and they'll take them for you. Secondly, I just wanted to compliment the fire department on their excellent open house. It was wonderful. Kids, everybody had a great time. And also Larry and the Trick or Treat Trail group, fabulous. My little 18-month-old walked that whole length of Cass Avenue with me, so my little granddaughter, so they had a ball. It was a fun time.
I'm going to turn over to Trustee Addington.
Thank you, Mayor. Couple of things. Trick or Treat Trail I thought was phenomenal. The Lions passed out 800 pieces. We actually ran out of mint rolls. Probably could have done 100 more. So very well attended. And then that evening was the Haunted Forest. And I understand that 1,100 people went through the Park District Haunted Forest that night. So that also was extremely successful. So two great events in town as we start building up. Just a real quickie. For those that attended the first Lions Oktoberfest, it turned out to be a really nice success. It made our new foundation a couple of $1,000s for a first-time event. Anytime you can come out of a first event and be, a couple $1,000s to the good and a very positive event, it worked out well. So congratulations to the organizers there. And then the last thing, two things more. First one is also on November 7th, Mayor. We will be presenting the 3 winners of the Peace Poster Contest. So they'll be here under my reports. And then the last thing is the legislative Committee for Dupage Mayors and Managers met Tuesday morning. Some of the stuff we talked about already, so I'm not going to repeat. But there were a lot of things, a lot of stuff on the table. We had a report by our lobbyist, and there's going to be 6 days of veto session, 3 next week and then 3 the following week. One of the high topics that's going to be discussed is the public safety pensions, the consolidation, and nobody has seen the wording of the bills yet, but supposedly they're going to be introduced and will be discussed at the veto session, so that is coming. The governor announced that the money that's going to be expended from road and bridge is going to be $23 billion. And that's coming out, so there's going to be there's some bills that have been presented for revisions to the gaming law that Illinois had passed some time ago, but Matt reported that right now this is kind of stuck in the mud, so we don't think that the casinos and the sports betting are going to even be discussed now at the veto session. The only other thing that's there is that, well, 2 things. First one is that there were some technical amendments to state law with regard to adult use cannabis. One was to delay the 3% revenue that municipalities were supposed to get from July until July or September. That doesn't affect the 1% normal sales tax, only this extra 3%. And then the last thing was that Matt reported there's a lot of activity by federal investigators right now down in Springfield, so a lot of people are really hanging low. So the coffee with the legislators was extremely well attended. It was successful. There were 20 bills that we looked at. 19, the staff agreed, we agreed with staff recommendation. There was one, House Bill 3887. This goes back to something that I've talked about before, concerns the banning of all flavored tobacco products within the state of Illinois. So it's vaping, snuff, cigarettes, cigars, no flavored sales of any kind. So that may or may not be discussed, but it was a bill we looked at, and our recommendation was to support it. Our action program is moving forward. That'll be finalized by the next meeting, and then that goes to the Board of Directors, and then will become our 2020 legislative plan. The other bill that was discussed and had a lot of discussion was House Bill 3911. This has just been presented. We don't know how much traction it's going to get, but it's a bill about the Regional Transportation Authority. And what the governor wants to do is he wants to take the appointments of the members of the RTA away from the county board and others and put it in his hands. And do we have any say-sos on anything with, as far as the RTA board is concerned? I don't think we do. No. So it really would affect what goes on. I think Dan Cronin has 1 seat, or the chairman of the county board has 1 seat that he can recommend. And so apparently the governor would like to take those back under his wing. So again, that's going to be monitored. We'll keep everybody informed. We're going to meet once more this year, which will be on December 3rd. They didn't want to meet on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, and then I just don't understand why not, but they didn't want to meet on Christmas Eve. So December 3rd will be our last meeting of the year, and of course, Patty Milkarski and myself and put this together, and she does a phenomenal job. So that's it on legislative, unless anybody has any questions. I'm done. Thank you, sir.
And Trustee Addington, his responsibility is to keep this board current on legislative matters, and he attends Dupage Mayors and Managers meeting as our representative. So thank you, Trustee Addington. Trustee Johannick Guzzo.
Thank you, Mayor. Our next Public Safety Committee meeting will be November 21st at 4:30 here. Before our regular board meeting, everyone is invited to attend. I want to remind everybody, fall back on November 3rd. Don't forget to change those batteries in your smoke detectors and your CO detectors when you turn your clocks back the 1 hour. Moving on, the police department is going to be holding a drug take-back on Saturday, October 26th. The Westmont Police Department will host 2 drug take-back events as part of the National DEA-sponsored Drug Take-Back Day. The events will be held from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Westmont Police Department on 500 North Cass Avenue and Mariano's at 150 West 63rd Street. The drug take-back program focuses on collecting unwanted, unused, and expired prescription drugs. Pills, powders, and patches will be accepted at both locations. However, needles will only be accepted at the Westmont Police Department collection site. All needles must be secured in a sharps container. Members of the Westmont Police Department will be on site to receive all medications delivered and will ensure safe disposal of these drugs. The program will not accept radioactive medicines, liquids, creams, inhalers, or EpiPens. To learn about how to safely dispose of medicines not accepted at the event, the DuPage County Health Department has helpful resources available at dupagehealth.org/RXbox. They will also be collecting unused vape supplies, but please no batteries. So I know that that's always a very good, it's a good way to get rid of your expired and unwanted medicines safely. Now, moving on to the fire department. I also want to echo a very successful open house. The weather was very nice. It was a little windy, but the turnout was wonderful. And it was just really nice to see everybody out and all of our fire department. We had some police officers there and several other departments were there. And I just want to say thank you for that. That was a very nice evening. And Mayor, that's all I have.
Again, earlier today, we took the oath of office for a lieutenant and captain. We had that earlier today. I was looking for you to help me swear him in, but unfortunately, you had to work. Trustee Barry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As many of you have seen, we have the Rotary Community Calendar. The first draft is done, and we're looking for that to be delivered to homes mid-December. And again, that's going to be free of charge, and anyone who has a Westmont mailing address is going to get a free community calendar. Chief Gunther has taken all the pictures, and I think as you guys have seen, they're fantastic. He really did a wonderful job with that. So look for those in December. Our Economic Development Committee will meet next. Our next meeting will be November 6th at 9 a.m. We meet right here at the Village Hall. Last evening, Karen Butterfield had a ribbon cutting at her State Farm office on Chicago Avenue. So congratulations to her, and we encourage everyone to visit Karen and get their insurance quotes from her. Lastly, this Sunday, we're calling for good weather finally, and this is our third reschedule of the Pet Promenade and Touch a Truck. It's going to be at Ty Warner Park from 11 to 2. There's free pumpkins to the first 50 attendees. There's petting a zoo, sheep herding demonstration, police canine demonstration, cold-blooded creatures, a parade and contest, and all kinds of prizes. So we encourage you to bring out any kind of pet and your family, and come see us at Ty Warner Park from 11 to 2. And again, this is from the Westmont Chamber of Commerce. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll turn to this side, and Trustee Nero.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few items. Our next Public Works Committee meeting is December 19th, 4:30, right here at Village Hall. And then next, just want to remind everybody that October is going to be happening at Merricker School, October 28th, with the Ecology Club students. So look forward to that. And again, awesome time at the Fire Department open house. Thanks to really all village staff, because everybody was there, all departments. So great event. I think the Nero family has a new female firefighter in the making. So thanks, Chief, to everybody. Appreciate it. And then lastly, awesome Trick or Treat Fest. I think it really was a lot of fun. Pumpkin Smashing Fest is always something I look forward to. And I do have to make a little comment, though. I think we need to look at the scoring methods, Mayor. I know you were, I know you were a witness, and Larry and Jenny, they were there and saw. I mean, a bullseye in my book is usually, the winner, but that's all right. I mean, needless to say, it was an awesome event, and it was honestly to have that opportunity. No other town does it. So thank you, Jenny and Larry, for all the work you do, and all the volunteers that help with it. It was a lot of fun. That's all I have, sir. Thank you.
I'm going to turn to trustee Little.
Thank you, Mayor. We had an Administration Finance Committee meeting tonight where we did swear in Tim King as lieutenant and Eric Blaskovich as captain. And that was a very exciting opportunity for the fire department to bring that to us. We did have 2 women come in, Susan Frick from Rush and Mary Ferguson from Aspired Living, to discuss Westmont becoming a dementia-friendly community. And we'll be hearing a little bit more about that in the near future. They wanted to put together a senior resource group health expo in May. You know, they wanted to be a part of that. We discussed how our parking meters along Burlington they've reached their expiration date. So they won't be able to be upgraded or updated at all. So we're looking at a new app for that, and it's Passport. So they'll be looking into putting that out and giving information to the public to use along Burlington Avenue. And also, I wanted to go into the Wicked West Fest. Best turnout ever. There were over 100, well, before that, we had a new event this year, and it was the Manning School Monster Mile, which was a PTO fundraiser for Manning School. In addition to that, we had over 100 costume contest participants, and there were some really, really good, excellent costumes along there. 17 Smashing Pumpkins participants, and we will announce our overall winners at the next meeting. And pictures from the event have been posted on the village website, so take a look at those. The Wicked West Fest Scarecrow voting. There are 25 Wicked West Fest scarecrows now on display in downtown Westmont. Voting has begun, so please vote for your favorite scarecrow. Vote early and vote often at the westmontchamber.com. Winners will be announced very shortly. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Barker.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, the Westmont First Committee had a meeting, I think it was Monday of this week, and we went into the census information again with the complete count. And we want to continue, we know that the library's doing a good job, but as board members and village staff to continue to spread the word how valuable this is to our community. It's, as some of us know, it's not just tax dollars, it's resources available for different situations, and also better representation as a community. And those two are kind of left behind. So it's not just about money, it's about, who actually is in this community, and then making sure that they have the resources and the representation that they deserve. So that's important. We will meet again on November 18th at 6 p.m. and continue our work with that. And we have excellent help from staff, with Jenny kind of keeping us on track and really pushing us to do our homework. And then the EIC committee was going to meet Monday, November 4th at 6 p.m. in the public library. And we have a few things, as always, going on, as well as attending Wicked West Fest. We have holiday lights recycling now with the Halloween lights that you may have. And then right after that, these containers will stay available, and we'll collect the Christmas lights all the way up till January 31st, so that they don't end up in landfill. We also have on November 2nd, pumpkin composting and light bulb recycling, so you can take your used pumpkins and bring them to us at the library parking lot, and we'll collect them from you and make sure that they get composted. And then we'll also receive from residents the T6 and TA light bulbs, and we'll put them in the bulb smasher. So we're smashing more things here in Westmont. But it's a very good idea that those things are disposed of properly. So that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think it's obvious, and I've said this over and over, our community is probably the best community for our volunteers, and the activities we run are tremendous. Moving on the agenda, items to be removed from the consent agenda. Does any board member have anything they'd like removed? Seeing none, I'd ask Manager May to please read.
Consent agenda this evening, we first have board meeting minutes. Board to consider approving the minutes of the village board meeting held October 10, 2019. That's followed by Finance Ordinance Number 12 in the aggregate amount of $1,641,629.55. We have two purchase orders. First one is Harris Computer Systems, $33,088.79. This represents the annual maintenance for the MSI software. Next is the Westmont Fire Department 2% Association. That is the foreign firefighters insurance tax, and that's in the amount of $40,507.40. The total of those purchase orders is $73,596.19. Brings the total of purchase orders together with Finance Ordinance Number 12 to $1,641,629.55. There's one community event, 2019 Westmont Holidays. Board to consider an ordinance approving the following requests from Westmont Holidays Committee for the 2019 Westmont Holidays Opening Ceremony and Ugly Sweater 5K on November 30th, 2019. There are 5 parts to the request. First is the permit amplified sound in downtown business district near Westmont Center from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. Second, close sections of several streets from Naperville Road to 55th Street from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. for the Holidays Parade. Next is close West Quincy Street from Cass Avenue to Adams from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. for the Holidays Parade. Next is close Linden from Burlington to Chicago Avenue for parade staging, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. And lastly, close sections of several streets between Cass Avenue and William Street from Burlington to Trobby from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. for the Ugly Sweater 5K. This request is on the consent agenda. It's substantively the same as previous years. There is a little bit, the race is the same. There's a little bit different. The parade route is the same too, but instead of ending and going down to Richmond Street, it's going to turn down Quincy here. So it didn't seem like it was the road's already closed each year, but it didn't seem like a significant enough change to separate this. So that concludes the consent agenda, Mayor.
Do I have a motion to approve as read?
Motion to approve, Little?
Second, Addington.
Motion made and second to approve. Any comments, questions? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Little?
Yes.
Trustee Barry?
Yes.
Trustee Addington?
Yes.
Trustee Nero?
Yes.
Trustee Guzzo?
Yes.
Trustee Bart?
Yes.
Motion passes. Go on to new business. A, zoning text amendment, craft alcohol beverages. Board to consider an ordinance approving text amendments to allow microbreweries, brew pubs, and related craft alcohol beverage producers and dispensers in B1, B2, C1, and the M zone districts. And I'm going to turn to either the manager, May, or the attorney.
Well, I have this information. Mr. Sylvester's not here today. This item is more of a zoning text amendment. I don't want to call it housekeeping, but when they were approached and being new to the department, the particularly the craft brewer in the manufacturing district was looking to do, there's a new owner and they're looking to do certain improvements, and going through the zoning code, none of what was going on was accommodated in the way there were no clear rules as far as how to proceed or how to handle the request. So that led to staff, rewriting and developing those rules, and this is that text amendment to accommodate that. It was mostly to clean up the one in the manufacturing, but it applies to the other zoning districts as well.
I'll just point out that what's defined as craft alcohol beverage dispensers is essentially a microbrewery. You could have food sales on site. That's allowed with a special use in the B1, B2, and C1 districts. The other is the definition is for the producer, and that's more for a what you'd have in a manufacturing district. But because food sales and on-site consumption are allowed, those producers are also allowed in the B2 district, the C1 district, and the M district pursuant to a special use. So they're defined. There's some parking regulations that go along with some of those, some limitations as to floor area, et cetera. I think it was vetted on 3 different occasions over the course of 3 separate months by Planning and Zoning Commission, and they unanimously recommended it.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, Nero.
Second, Addington.
Motion been made and second to approve. On the question, anybody in the audience?
Just one housekeeping comment.
Yes.
I believe the intention of this, by creating these definitions and classifying these in the various districts, is to eliminate the existing definition for brew pubs and microbreweries and the listing of those in various zoning districts. It wasn't real clear from Nalini's staff report, and we didn't discuss it at PZC, but I just want to let you know, after I get confirmation from her, there may be an additional change to this ordinance where that just gets stricken out and replaced by this.
Trustees, any questions, comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Little.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Guzzo.
Yes.
Trustee Young.
Yes.
Motion passes. Moving on. The next three items, B, C, and D, are all related. And what we're going to do is, the manager's going to give a brief introduction, and then I'll open it up for public comment. And it'll be for all three. So when we go through them, then the public comment won't be on each item. I'd rather have it all first. I'm asking individuals to limit it to 3 minutes. And when you come to the podium, anybody who wants to address the board next, be ready to move up to the podium. So anybody who's going to address this board would go to the podium, say your name and address, and you could talk to us about your concerns or fears or anything about these three items. So at this time, I'm going to ask Manager May to give an introduction.
All right, thank you. And appreciating that too, because there are three separate items and three separate actions on your part, but they're all related to the same subject, and that has to do with retail sales of adult use cannabis.
Not just retail sales, it's also related businesses there too, such as
Yes.
production, transportation, et cetera.
All right, thank you. No, that's all right. It's a big topic, and there's a lot of parts to it. And then when you go, outside of what we're talking about here tonight too, there's also the HR components that are, a concern for the municipality as well as an employer, of many employees. But the items here are in three parts, and like I said, you'll take action separately on each one. First one is the zoning text amendment that would define where in the Village of Westmont should it be permitted the retail sales and uses and all the related business, what zoning districts and what parameters for locating and spotting and things like that. There are a lot of parameters in the state law itself as far as regulating some of it, and then we can be more restrictive to that in the zoning code ordinance. The second is the municipal cannabis retailer's occupation tax. The same state law that was passed in June allows us to implement our own tax that would still be collected by them, by the Illinois Department of Revenue, right, and distributed back to the Village of Westmont. And then the third item is the option to opt out of having retail establishments in the community at all.
Or any cannabis-related business establishment.
So they're on there, they seem like they're, not contradictory. I mean, they're related, but they have opposite, not goals, but opposite aspects to them. So they're in there, and back in, when, like I said, it was signed into law in June, there is nothing the board can do to actually prohibit or make it illegal for the adult use under those parameters. We're only talking about the retail sales. Back in, I think it was Admin and Finance Committee, we talked about it, and we talked about these different options as well. It was referred to planning and zoning to take care of the zoning aspects of this topic. Even if, for example, there was a interest in opting out and that vote to do so, there are always mechanisms for a community to opt back in. So it's important to have, despite what your opinion is or intention is regarding the opt-out part, which I think the bulk of the audience is interested in, is based on, the identification, is you want to have the zoning in place anyway so that it's covered should that change at any point, and then similarly the tax. So that is the purpose for the three items. That is why it's in this order. having the, opinion on the zoning does not, preclude an opinion on the, on item D. And they all need to be addressed in their own item, even though they're related to the same topic.
No, 3 separate items.
There will be 3 separate votes. Mayor's good suggestion would be, because of the interest and they're all overlapping, we'll have one public comment period so any of the 3 items, any aspects of any of the 3 items you want to speak to would all be done together in one public comment period. And then afterwards, the board would go through and do their motions for, we have to have a motion for the first one first, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So the first item is the zoning text amendment, and this item went through, when I said it was referred to Planning and Zoning in August, it was introduced to the Planning and Zoning Commission at its September meeting, where they had initial thoughts and interest on it, gave staff instruction, and which included not just which zoning districts, but related buffers that should be taken into consideration as well, whether it's distances from parks, schools, residential areas, there all the combinations and permutations that go with those factors. They had a certain request that just one aspect of it was the radius from parks started at 1,000 feet, but when that was from an initial conversation, when it was actually mapped out, it pretty much eliminated everything, but a handful of parcels in the community. When I say parcels, these are just eligible parcels to be considered to do that. Doesn't even mean that these are available parcels for that use. There's something there now owned by whoever, and they, that's a separate business. This is just where we can consider accommodating them. The planning and zoning, during their October meeting on October 9th, reviewed that and went through, and then there was one modification made that just one of the radiuses around parks was, they were shown 1,000 feet, 500 feet, 100 feet, and the short answer is the one that's in the packet and contained in the ordinance and was in there. I distributed a bigger copy because they're hard to read. That represents a 300-foot buffer from parks, but the rest, if you look at underneath the legend, it's kind of small, but it tells you what all the buffers are, down in the bottom. And that's what's in the packet here. That's what this item is to allow sales as special uses only in B2, C1, and M zoning districts with the imposed spacing requirements described.
And that's for the dispensaries. The other related adult use cannabis business establishments such as cultivation centers or infusers, all of which are defined in the zoning ordinance and in the state law, would only be allowed in the M district. I'll point out also that the act does allow municipalities to regulate such establishments through zoning, through reasonable regulations. And by declaring these uses a special use, you have the ability to review things like hours of operation, security, parking, lighting, signage, anything that's relevant to a zoning determination. And you can impose, if you were to allow this, you could impose special conditions on any applicant that comes in to make sure that the public health, safety, welfare is preserved and protected. Alternatively, if you feel like there are standardized conditions that should be part of every application for special use for a dispensary, we can look at further amendments to the zoning ordinance, as long as they're reasonable time, place, manner type restrictions. The act is very strict about advertising, what sort of signs can go on these establishments. They can't show images of cannabis, they can't market to children, they can't show someone consuming the product. It really just has to be the name of the business. And with the distance separation requirement that Manager May mentioned, those were recommendations from staff and Planning and Zoning Commission, but I think as I pointed out in an email, you guys are free to put whatever separation requirements you feel are necessary. One separation requirement that's not in the ordinance because it's already in the state act and would be redundant is that there's a 1,500 foot separation requirement between dispensaries.
Got it. And I think what the key here is, no matter what we do on the third item, at least our zoning's in place. You know, the manufacturing, we had a medical marijuana, medical cannabis, and it only could have gone in the M district. That's the only place our ordinance allows it. We're not changing that. That's still the case. We're saying for the retail end,
Retail adult use.
adult use.
And that application was denied by the village board
It was
because
denied.
of its proximity to a park, and I think there's a concern over a school, too.
Yeah, across the street from a park and a school right down the street. Anything else, Manager May?
That's the summary of what brought us today, why we put all items on the agenda at one time so that they all can be considered together. The map that you're looking at, I talked about how the parks buffer changed, but what you're looking at is a 1,000-foot from school, 300-foot from parks, and 100-foot from residential areas. And it's residential, I guess there is more. So it's residential areas, and these buffers are not, you know, building to building, door to door. They're actual, whatever the parcel is zoned, and then the buffer is on top of that, so the property corner out. It also, residential doesn't mean residential in Westmont, it means residential. So you'll see, for example, we have neighboring properties where their residential properties are affecting the buffer implied, and the big one is the Hinsdale Golf Club, which, you know, it's a golf club, it's vacant, it's fenced in, it's secure, but it's still zoned to residential property, so that buffer was used for that purpose. So I'm just describing what's represented in front of you and what planning and zoning approved on October, or recommendation from October 9th.
One final, I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to mention, there was someone that came to actually talk about opting out at the planning and zoning and was, you know, made aware that the only thing, it's not the village board, it's a, you know, a different body, and the only thing on the agenda was about the zoning requirements. So there was no public hearing or public comment on other items, and the village board meeting was the next night, so that was referred and was allowed to speak, and actually came late for open forum, and the mayor opened open forum again to allow that to be expressed 2 weeks ago today. And then, here we are.
And Attorney Zemanek.
When you're considering the zoning regulations and potentially opting out, I would just say, if the vote is to opt out, that doesn't mean that all cannabis possession by residents or non-residents is somehow prohibited in the village. I think everyone knows that, but I just want to make it clear that by opting out just means that the businesses can't be located in town, but a resident can go to another community, bring back in adult use cannabis, and, you know, enjoy it in the privacy of their own home, or in accordance with the state law.
State law. Okay, what we want to do is have opportunity for anyone who'd like to talk about this to come up to the podium, give your name and address, and the board doesn't trade conversation. They're going to listen to everything, and then I'll close the public hearing, and then the board has an opportunity to discuss it. And if they want to ask somebody a question, they have the right to do that. So right now, who wants to be first?
Here.
Yes. Oh, 3 minutes. I told them before, I'm going to limit it to 3 minutes, please.
And Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
not only the 3 minutes, but if we keep hearing the same thing over and over again, like I think we get it from one or two people, but to keep repeating the same thing over and over again, I think it runs a little stale.
And thank you, Trustee Barry, because that was one of the things I was going to comment on. If you are going to say the same thing that's already been said, come to the podium, give your name and address, and say, I support everything that's been said. If it's something new, please, come and talk to us.
And if you're speaking on behalf of a large group or organization or homeowners association, and you are their representative, you could ask the mayor for some additional time to speak so that everyone else doesn't have to come up and speak.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Trustee. My name is Xiang Hu. I have been the owner of the properties in the 59th Street and Cass for over 16 years. As the first speaker, I would like to remind everyone that according to Westmont's 2021 strategic plan, one of guiding principles is to welcome and respect all stakeholders and perspectives and contributions. As you know, 2 weeks ago and tonight, I'm here with same purpose to ask all of you to open out recreational marijuana sales in Westmont. Westmont is well known as a safe, family, business-friendly community. It is one of the best towns in the state whose residents are committed to common sense conservative policies. We all invest our futures in Westmont. Because of these unique characters, I'm quite confident that those who are here tonight for the long haul want to protect our hometown and keep that way. With a THC concentration in certain GMO strains as high as 30% today, cannabis is addictive. It is a dangerous life disruptor with over 500 chemical compounds. As a landlord, I have a lot of story about the destructive consequence of many tenants addicted to marijuana. Tonight, I just mentioned 2 sad stories. First one, Mr. P was a very smart handyman and managed multiple properties before he moved into my apartment. Then he was fired from all these positions because of his out-of-control marijuana addiction. He could not concentrate on his job and could not control his temps once he's high on marijuana. He parted with the drug, had an affair with the drug, and eventually divorced on a high. The most tragic part is that he hanged himself a few months later after he moved out because he can no longer afford his marijuana addiction, leaving behind 2 lovely children in elementary school. The second, I just evicted a genius futures trader who moved into my apartment 3 years ago. He once made $1 million a year before he became addicted to marijuana. It was marijuana that ruined his life. He lost his job, his family, his $1 million house. He's behind on rent for 6 months. He has difficulty finding a job at a car dealership. It only gets worse. His son has been disabled from car accident because he's too addicted to marijuana. So I'm strongly urging you, Mr. Mayor, and all trustees, to protect our village, protect our children, our residents, our families, and our property in Westmont, using your power, vision, and wisdom to opt out marijuana sales in Westmont. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you.
I have here. This is the signature, petition signature for we collect about 223 signatures. Those petition was conducted between October 10th and October 23. All collect from residents, business. We knocked those streets, recreational facilities throughout the village of the Westmont. Here those total about the 200.
Good. I will thank you. Give it to the police chief. He'll take it. Thank you. Who's next? Go ahead.
Brian, you can leave with the clerk.
Thank you for this opportunity to share here. My name is Li Zhou, and I'm the resident of Chapel Hill Court in Westmont. I have been Westmont resident since 2002. First, I want to say that one of our guiding principles to welcome and respect all stakeholder perspectives and contributions. I appreciate that a chance to share here. All trustees, I'm here to strongly urge you to opt out selling recreational marijuana in Westmont. Let me share you my own personal experience on marijuana. I have worked for a medical product company for past 5 years. Our company is one of the largest drug test seller and distributors in United States. I have heard many sad stories from our customers firsthand on how people, especially young people, struggle and suffer from the drug addiction, including marijuana addiction, how their life are destroyed, and how their families are harmed. The federal CDC government website published data has shown that marijuana has a long-lasting, even permanent dire consequence in young people's health, especially brain development and mental health. Also, 1 out of 6 young people who just tried marijuana become addiction. Many of them end up even addiction to more dangerous drugs. Besides health consequences, especially on children, selling marijuana in Westmont will introduce the much bigger risk on community safety and the public cost. In September this year, Rocky Mountain HITA program released the 6th annual report on impact of marijuana legalization in Colorado. Reports have shown that traffic death related to the marijuana and the marijuana-related hospitalization have doubled after legalization. Based on the same report, only less than 1% of total state revenue of Colorado in 2018 is from state of the sales of marijuana. However, higher budget for law enforcement and public health are required to handle more traffic accident, law enforcement, and developing drug rehab program. The tax revenue from the selling marijuana will not even enough to cover the cost. Only the marijuana businessmen will benefit from the recreational marijuana sale in Westmont. The children, residents, law enforcement, entire community have to pay the price. In no means we should compromise the safety and health of children and the community. By the way, on Monday, our neighbor city, Burridge, just voted 6-0 to opt out selling recreational marijuana. In the city council meeting of Burridge, Dupage County State Attorney Robert Burling came and made a very convincing presentation based on the Rocky Mountain report. If our city community would like to know more about this report and the severe consequences from the marijuana, we should invite him to make the public representation to our community. In summary, I sincerely urge all of you to support opt-out selling recreational marijuana in Westmont for the sake of the safety, health, and the social impact in our community. Thank you.
I do have to say before the next person, we've received numerous emails, and we've had an opportunity to read them, the various reports, and I do have to say we receive emails both pro and con, and a probably equal amount from our residents, so go ahead.
I was prepared to say something along the same lines, but my name is Fran Bixler. I'm from Lyle, but this is probably my 5th or 6th meeting I've been to for opt-out. I'm sitting over there listening to your board member meeting, and I am floored because you guys are just so together. Oh my God, you've got to be the best board that I've heard so far, hands down. From the very beginning when I walked in, no, you guys are very family oriented. You can tell by your conversations that you're having about all of your fests and just the compassion that you have. So first, congratulations. I honestly want to move here now.
We want you to.
I'm telling you, you guys have convinced me. But the other thing that I have to say is your attorney and the presentation and everything that you guys have prepared, from establishing zoning laws first, because eventually we may have to just roll on our backs and take this. But having the zoning ordinances that you have in place is crucial. And I'm in agreement with your zoning ordinances. You have got some of the best zoning ordinances you can put together. I'm completely in agreement. I wish I could say change that 300 to 500, but I'm not sure about the Westmont makeup or landscape, so I'm good with whatever you guys have got down there. The second thing was the tax. Of course you're going to tax it. What are you going to say? No, we're not going to tax it if we finally get it. Of course you're going to tax it. Tax it away. I do hope you opt out, at least for now. Like you said, you can always come back to this later if you have to, but if you choose to opt out, I think that's the best bet. But again, you guys are hands down the best board meeting I have gone to. You have everything just so perfectly laid out. It's articulated correctly. It's organized perfectly. It just makes perfect sense. You guys have totally blown me away. I mean that. And I'm not easily blown away. Some of these board members meetings I've been to, you just want to scratch your head and go, oh my God. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dear board members, commissioners, My name is Diana Lee. I live on Diving Place. My family is 20 years long resident of the village. Our family strongly out the recreational marijuana store. And we do see there is a tax revenue gain temptations from marijuana retail sales. We also knowing that there's consequences, there's traffic and the safety and the black market and the abuse to use recreational marijuanas, and the police staff adding, importantly and personally, I just don't see this is the right resource for our village, for our destination. Last Sunday afternoon, I have great opportunities to meet some great Westmont residents outside of Westmont Library. And I was holding the opt-out sign forms for people. And I meet so many good people. And I was asking, what do you think about the recreational marijuana stores opening in Westmont? And the lady, Bonnie, said, no, absolutely not. And there is a gentleman walking by, said, I live in Clinton Hills, can I sign? I said, of course, you are our neighbors, and we are all living Dupage. And he happily signed. And there's another guy, he coming to said, no, God, no. And there's a handicapped parking guy was just parked. I go over there, I was asking, I said, how are you, sir? And he said, what I can do for you? I said, there's recreational marijuana stores opening in Westmont, what do you think? And he said, no, absolutely not. And when I was young, I used, but that is just very light. Right now, the dosing is just doubled, and there's abusing people to using. And I look at him because he's difficulty to walk, and probably he will use it. I was thinking, and he said he probably see my eyes from the question marks. So he said, if I will use, I rather go to someplace else. So that's, and also I was blown away, and I was walking at the neighbors as well. And there's the doctors and the retired engineers and the working men and the newlywed, newly homeowners, and they all signed. And the ladies and gentlemen and the community leaders, I invite you to stand by with us, with our neighbors and the friends. Together, we can make better choices for our people's health, community safety, for our children, and for our future. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
God bless you.
Who's next? You can.
Hi, Mayor and all the trustees. I'm so honored to be the Westmont resident. I moved to the Westmont since 2002, and I'm still the resident here. Never think to move out because I have a good experience in the life in the Westmont. I'm a nurse. I just want to share the personal story in my nursing career. See how the recreation marijuana affect the people's life negatively. One time I had a patient very young, less than age 30, and he used the marijuana in the bathroom in the hospital, and that was against the rule of the hospital, but he used it anyway. And after that, maybe you even don't want to hear what happened after that. He had oral sex with his girlfriend in the bathroom, and after that, he kicked the girlfriend out of the hospital unit. And then what happened was everything's out of control. And we have to call the hospital security because he cannot control his temper anymore. So the security have to stay in our unit for 24 hours to monitor this patient. Now, I'm worked as a nurse 25 years, And I never see this happen in my nursing career. So that's why I'm here. I'm just urgently request all the mayor, trustee, manager to think about deeply about our village, our community. That's why you see I wear this opt-out recreational marijuana. And thank you for giving me the time to share this. Thank you.
Dear Mayor and the community member and also the trustees, thank you for this opportunity to let me speak here today. My name is Xiaobing Zuo. I live at Shannon Lake Court. I'm a scientist at Argonne National Lab. I live at Westmont for more than 9 years. Come here today, I want to say I'm totally against sell recreational marijuana in Westmont. Because it will cause severe public health and safety problem. Some people may argue that marijuana is not addictive, but it is totally wrong. I'm going to quote a report from this report that's published by National Institute on Drug Abuse. On the first page, the director of the institute said, quote, because marijuana impairs short-term memory and judgment and distort perception, it can impair performance in school or at work or make it dangerous to drive. It also affects brain system that is still maturing through young adulthood. Also, contrary to public belief, marijuana can be addictive. So it can be addictive, can develop the dependency. In effect, in year 2015, about 4 million people in the United States were diagnosed to have marijuana use disorder. So they can be addictive. And even worse, it is a gateway drug. The majority of people that begin with marijuana later on go to more strong drugs. So selling recreational marijuana today here is selling the invitation tickets to tomorrow's more strong drugs. So this drug is cause many public safety issues. No doubt, selling that in Westmont first will affect the residents, the Westmont resident. It will put our safety in danger, put our community in danger, and put our school in danger, and put our kids in danger. So I ask you that all you please protect our community and our kids. Please opt out. If anyone want to gain tax. Sorry. I use much time?
No.
Sorry.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
but.
Yes, okay.
I've given him,
Okay.
as long as you're wrapping up, I usually let you go a little.
Okay, thank you. If anyone wants to gain tax revenue through the selling recreational marijuana, I can tell you that is the wrong way. Many of our Westmont residents welcome a more healthy and a more decent business, not marijuana. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dear Mayor and Commissioner, my name is Chen Liao. You can call me Stella. My address is 219 Carlisle Avenue, Westmont. I have lived there for 6 years. I have 2 kids, one 10-year-old boy and one 2-year-old daughter. So I mainly care about this hearing because of my kids. I'm not saying that marijuana is more addictive or less addictive, but the thing is we don't need another addictive drug. So I don't like to see my kids get more influence on this substance, so opt-out is the safest measure I can do now to protect them. It's still a couple years before they would ever think of using it, but still keeping it out of the reach, as far as I can. That's my goal. So number one, the substance most abused by teens is alcohol. But why? Because it's legal and normalized. It's available for purchase by older siblings, and sometimes they can steal it from parents. By allowing marijuana to be sold in Westmont, we will increase access to kids. And also, we will further normalize its use. The amount of advertising our teens will be exposed will also increase. And as we know, advertising, they work on our teens. So this product sounds pretty cool. Do we want this addictive and dangerous drug to be sold in Westmont, which is a nice city? The other point that I want to make is that there is no argument about the traffic accident increase after marijuana is legalized. So even for people up in, they agree with that. And there is a more than 100% increase in car accident because a combination of alcohol and also marijuana could cause more perils of the people. And think about that, 100% more increase in car accident. That accident can happen to you, to me, to our kids, to our future generation. So it's not just one data point. It's actually one life, one family is totally destroyed. So that's why I'm against it. So the third point I want to make is that nowadays they make much more concentrated THC product. It's not what used to be the grandma marijuana. World average is 2 to 4%. Now it's 6 to 25% times higher. So the higher concentration will lead to more addiction. And as a chemist, I can say, there's no way marijuana is going to change. So our standing will not change. It will always be a harmful product. And the only reason people want to sell it is because of the economy, the tax you can collect. But in the long run, think about the opioid crisis. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't, give you a bright future. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the time. Dear board and Mr. Mayor, my name is Nana Shan. I'm a scientist. I'm living in the 60th Street in Westmont. I'm here to ask you to opt out the recreational marijuana in Westmont. So here's my concerns. First, the increased availability of marijuana lead to more traffic accidents, as you know. But at this point, there's no reliable testing method that is equivalent to alcohol breathalyzer to detect the level of THC, which is the main active compound in marijuana. Current method is body fluid-based and is time-consuming. Usually, it will take 2 or 3 days to get the results back. Some pilot-scale instruments can only detect 40 nanogram per liter of THC, which is way higher than the legal limit, which is only 5 to 10 nanogram per liter. That means the law enforcement may not be able to tell whether someone is DUI. Therefore, it is practically difficult for law enforcement to identify the potential cause of drug-related incidents or crimes. The technology is not ready. Second, I would like to say that I totally respect the people who use marijuana. It is the personal choice. True, we enjoy the great freedom in this country to choose what we like to do. However, there is a limit. When we pursue our freedom, we have to consider whether this will put the other people in a harmful way. I felt uncomfortable and unsafe to stay in an apartment that is soaked with heavy smell. I believe there are so many people like me in our community. So my final word, please opt out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? You can just keep popping up and getting behind. No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm just saying, anybody else who wants to talk, feel free to come up.
Good evening. My name is Zhijian Liu. Many local governments hope that recreational marijuana sales can boost their tax revenue. But in the long run, such revenue will fall far short of the costs incurred by use of marijuana. Today, the marijuana sold at legal dispensaries often contains 25% THC. I mean THC right here. Many people use extracts that are nearly pure THC. We cannot deny THC harms the user physically and mentally, damaging human brains and organs. Therefore, definitely increase the cost on medical expense as well as various types of insurances. There are also societal concerns, including traffic safety and negative impact in workplaces when employees use or attempt to use marijuana on the job. According to research, vehicle crashes are up by as much as 6% following the start of retail sales of recreational marijuana in Colorado, Nevada, Oregon, and Washington. So, the costs in increased hospital visits, addiction treatment, workplace accident, lost productivity, and environmental damage, even loss of human lives, will way surpass the revenue increase. And therefore, furthermore, prospective home buyers will walk away to seek a home in a marijuana-free city. Local shops and other businesses and investment will be very likely to move out of the city that opts in recreational marijuana sales. Additionally, recreational marijuana will no doubt increase teen use. Living near marijuana dispensaries makes youth more likely to use marijuana. So I'm here to urge the leaders of the village to vote against recreational marijuana dispensaries. Thank you.
Thank you. Evening.
Good evening. My name is Jin Zhang. I live in 111 Carlisle Avenue. 2.5 years ago, my wife and I moved here because we like the community and the safety here in Westmont. And to be honest, over the last few months, I tried to educate myself of all the consequences of opening recreational marijuana here in Westmont. But given all the projections and estimations, I have to say opening such a business will bring us a great deal of uncertainties, and uncertainty itself do damage. For example, for potential buyers from a working class family like us, they may walk away because we prefer to avoid such uncertainties, and thus our property value will decrease in the future. And in addition, underage marijuana use will be harder to control because it makes them easier to reach such marijuana through their friends or siblings even. Again, as I said, Westmont is the town we choose to raise our family, and we cannot take the risk. So please say no to marijuana business. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jonathan Murphy. I live at 33 James Drive. I actually bought my house 5 years ago today. I would like to thank the board for the wonderful job they've been doing. I've been noticing all types of improvements along Cass Avenue south of 59th, and I'm excited to see what's going on at the corner of 63rd there. So thank you guys. I'm going to offer a slightly different opinion. Everyone is trying to tell you to not allow marijuana to be sold in Westmont because they think it's terrible, and that may or may not be true. I'm not going to say anything about that. I'm just going to say, similar to what the village attorney said, that marijuana is available already as a medicine in this state and has been for several years, and is actually in a majority of the states in the union. but also, regardless of whether it's available in Westmont, it is going to be available recreationally in Illinois and in many towns. I know Burr Ridge apparently opted out, but they're not all opting out. And this is really just a common sense financial decision for the village. You know, people that are going to use marijuana are going to get marijuana wherever they want, and the state has already decided that it's going to be okay for them to do that starting next year. So we might as well cash in on it, because I read the newspaper every day, and all they're arguing about in Chicago is what a great opportunity fiscally it will be providing, and I don't know why we would want to deny that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Maria Wagner, and I'm a resident of Downers Grove. And a few weeks ago, I spoke at our council meeting in asking the council to opt out of the marijuana sales. And I had read a story, much like a lot of the people tonight have talked about the detriments, and my story was about a gentleman who eventually, after severe cannabis use, took his own life. Got to know his mom, connected with her via Facebook. And I know that Westmont is a very family-oriented community, just like Downers Grove. I just heard all your activities you're doing. We have the same, and I love Westmont. I'm currently in the Police Academy, Citizens Police Academy class. And I just wanted to say I've got children too, and I don't feel any amount of revenue is worth the pitfalls that this would bring. So I just respectfully ask for you to opt out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, the board. Thank you, Mayor Gunter. My name is Cynthia Hopkins. I'm a resident of Hinsdale. I have invested my past 15 years of career in the banking sector, and I like to quantify everything. So in this case, I like to provide you some hard numbers. I did a lot of research on that. On your website, you have a 2021 budget, right? And in that budget, I think the sales revenue projection, sales tax revenue projection is about $9.4 million. And that's a backdrop of this conversation. For this dispensary, high performance dispensary, the daily sales is about $15,000. Assuming that dispensary operates 300 days, and that translates into 4.5 million sales revenue every year. If the village takes 3% of the cut, that is about $135,000 sales tax collected from this type of a business. So for a small village like Westmont, you have about 10,000 households. The average impact for each household is about $12.5. So when you cast the vote, I want you to think, is the community ready to trade all the risk in exchange for $12 tax saving? And secondly, I understand, every one of you are concerned about the fiscal condition of the village. We all appreciate that as taxpayers. But I want you to think about your past, your childhood. What did you do as a child or as a youth? You went out, you ran on the football field, you skied. What kind of message are we sending to the youth that is okay to resort to drugs for recreation? Do we need that? So lastly, I plead, when you cast a vote, you cast a vote with a conscience, so that when you go home, you can look into the eyes of your children, your grandchildren, and I say, I did the right thing because I love you. Thank you. Please opt out.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to? Yeah, still got a chance before I close it.
Thank you, Mayor. Give me this opportunity, and thank you all the trustees. I think Springfield, they made bad mistake. They made a bad decision, very bad decision. When on the federal level, marijuana is still illegal, but they made it legal. That sent our next generation a wrong message. It's okay to use something, chemicals, to get you high. I think that's a very bad message. However, we, the people of Westmont, we can say no to marijuana. We have the statutory power to mitigate the risk by opting out, just like our immediate neighbors, Hinsdale, Down the Grove, Burridge, and Bolingbrook. Legalization doesn't necessarily mean municipalities should ignore the associated threats and damage to the public health and public safety, as well as how it undermines the core family value of our community. Your decision today demonstrates to your voters what your value is. What is the board's priority? Public health, public safety, or the tax dollars? Today is the time to link your names to the opt-out movement, which will be remembered for decades. Make the right decision, please, for our children, for our community, for your voters. Opt out. Your name will be remembered and appreciated. When you retire from this position, you deserve a 3 minutes applause for this decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dear Mayor and dear Board, I didn't plan speak, but I feel really urged to come to say. I want to say three numbers. The first number.
Where are you from, hon?
Maywood.
Maywood?
Maywood. Maywood. I'm from Lyle. I work at Argonne, so pass by Westmont every day, daily basis. My day job is doing policy impact analysis for Department of Energy. So I have been in this area for about 20 years. I'd like to say three numbers. The first number is located at homelessness number in all the states that legalized marijuana for past 5-6 years. Colorado since 2013. And the Department of Housing and Urban Development issued a report. They looked at that number and found all 4 states had an increase of chronically homeless people up to now. That's the report issued 2018. So the main reason is they saw the increased number mostly from outside states, the recent inmate released, and mostly jobless. That's one number. Number 2, black market. In the HITAR report, a surge of a black market through mail increased 1,000%. That's the second number. The third is more related to latest crisis. You probably already know that CDC reported in October 1st through October 5th that there is 1,080 cases of a vaping-related illness, mysterious lung illness. And then the latest report is they identified about 800 of them confirmed the vaping's 2 products, e-cigarette and marijuana. And that's, the number shows that about 70% admitted they vaped THC, and 21% of them are 18 to 20 years old. 16% are younger than 18. Think about the impact. State of Massachusetts already issued a ban, 4-month ban on any vaping product, including THC and e-cigarette. Please, decision makers, hold the future of impact of these decisions really impact our children, community is significant. Please think more, make your decision. And like someone says, once the genie out of a bottle, there's no way you can take it back. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Last opportunity, anybody would like to address the board on those 3 items? Seeing none, I am going to close the open comment portion of it. And then I'll turn to the board. I guess I should have a motion first and then have the board, or the board can discuss it now.
Actually, I believe there was a motion and a second, right?
No, I don't think so.
No motion was made now. I let everybody talk now. The board has a chance to talk. Should we do it on each item or let the?
I would do it separately, Mayor, but I'll leave it up to John.
All right. Then I need entertain a motion for the first one is the zoning text amendment for cannabis.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second, Nero.
Motion made and second to approve. Any additional comments? Trustee Barker.
Thank you, Mayor. The one comment that I would like to make about the zoning text amendments is the distances that are established here, maybe not by us, but by future boards, can and may move. And that's bothersome to me. You know, it's not a hard, fast rule. Why it's, you know, it's a good job, it's a good plan. It's zoned out properly, but then we have the ability to change that, or future boards have the ability to change that, and I just want to point that out.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other? Seeing none, I ask for roll call, please.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Guzzo.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
No.
Trustee Little.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Motion passes. The next, municipal cannabis retailers occupational tax. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve, Addington.
Second, Barry.
Motion been made and second. On the question or comment?
I'd like to comment on
Yes.
that one. I might as well comment on that one. You know, I think that the state got it wrong, and this is money that I don't want. So that's my comment.
All right. Any other comments?
Just that the tax, although approved tonight, doesn't become effective until January 1st. And then I don't believe it's actually can be implemented until September 1st by the language of the act. So the village won't start, if this were to be approved and you don't opt out, village would not see tax money until several months after September 1st.
Can I ask what our percentage would be?
3% is the maximum amount that the village can tax, and that's the amount listed in the ordinance. You can do any amount less than that in 0.25% increments.
And you know what Darien has done for their tax?
Do I know what their tax rate is?
I don't think they've had their hearing.
I believe they have.
Yeah,
And they
they've
just-
had it. I don't know what it is, but I do.
I don't know what the tax is.
I imagine in most
As of last week.
I imagine most municipalities, if they are going to tax it, are going to tax it at the highest rate possible.
Okay, thank you.
And the county did.
Yeah.
The county was
3%,
3%
yeah.
also.
Correct.
Any other comment? And ask for roll call, please.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Little.
No.
Trustee Barker.
No.
Trustee Guzzo.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes.
Motion passes. C, the municipal cannabis retailer, no, switch the page. We just approved it. Municipal cannabis business prohibition. Board to consider ordinance amending Chapter 22, businesses of the Westmont Code of Ordinance to prohibit cannabis business establishments. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve, Addington.
Second, Barker.
Motion been made and second to approve, to admit it, prohibit. On the question. Trustee Addington.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor. this has been coming for a long time. I appreciate very much you all taking the time this evening to come and talk to us. Unfortunately, almost everything all of you said has to do with the action the state has already taken. I will tell you that I argued against this law. I don't like vaping, I don't like e-cigarettes, I don't like flavored cigarettes. They're the law of the land, folks. There's nothing the village of Westmont or any of the village can do about that. I can tell you even more horror stories than some of you told us tonight. I'm a member of the Lions Club, I see a lot. But that bus is gone, folks. It's the law of the land. Whether you like it or not, several communities in Dupage County have, through my contacts and legislation, have told me they're either have already voted to opt in to allow a store or are planning on voting to opt in. Marijuana sales is going to happen here in Dupage County. It's going to happen, okay? There's nothing you can do about it, nothing I can do about it. Those communities that have voted to opt out, I understand. We have to make a decision tonight on where we want to stand with this, but I want everyone to realize that no matter what action we take here, it's going to happen. And if one of my neighbors or your neighbors wants to have a party in his backyard and the wind's blowing the right way, just like the young lady who talked about her apartment building, hey, I'm going to smell it. It's going to happen, folks. There's nothing we can do as of July 1st. It's legal. Or January 1st, I'm sorry. So, you know, I argued this thing way back when they had public hearings. I don't like any of it, but that discussion is over. What's on the agenda tonight is whether we are going to allow a store or a dispenser to be allowed in Westmont. And quite honestly, with the limited number of dispensaries that they're talking about, there's no guarantee that, or even, I think it's a very long shot that Westmont would get one, but this is where we're at. I appreciate all of you coming, but the decision tonight has nothing to do with whether marijuana is good or bad. It has nothing to do with all the horror stories that are there. It has to do with, do we want to allow a dispensary in our town or not? That's all it's about. So.
Thank you, Trustee Eddie.
Mayor?
Yes.
A couple comments, sir. I agree with Trustee Addington on everything that he mentioned. I think the ship has sailed on the issue of if it's legal to smoke or not. I think philosophically, that's a different question. But philosophically, on the question we have here in front of us, with the good controls that our Planning and Zoning Commission that we just approved put into place, the time that they spent with our community, the restrictions that we see here, quite frankly, I'm with Trustee Addington on that point. I personally, you know, I've seen Lombard Dairy and Schaumburg and quite a few others that are doing this. And I also understand, or just want to comment that if this does pass, I think the chance of even getting one is pretty slim, to be honest with you. I really do. And I think, you know, all the comments that have been made are accurate, Jim. I appreciate those. And again, at this point in the game, we're only discussing the ability to be able to sell it or not. And I think that's a whole different argument, a whole different kettle of fish, and that's why, you know, I'm inclined to agree with Trustee Addington. Thank you.
Any additional comments? Trustee Barker.
Mayor, thank you. First of all, I wanted to thank the mayor and the attorney and the board. I have a different position on this than most, but for making this possible and making it getting the question there. I feel that it needed to be there, that we needed to be heard on it, and we needed to hear from the public on it. The differencing in opinion is, I think that the federal government has it right. I think the state has it wrong. I understand the fact that, why this is done with the state. We don't need necessarily be a part of that. As you know, when I had issued paperwork to the fellow board members prior to this, probably over a month ago, and I said I just couldn't support it in any way. And I did research, just like many of the folks in the audience here, up and down, and I couldn't find the good in it, with the exception of a couple of medical benefits. And they all know that. They all know that from me. And the revenue, you know, if you take the revenue out of it, it is so not a good idea. And as I said, you know, the revenue remains to be a question still. I asked our financial advisor, Mr. Parker, over there to look at the revenue aspects of it and let us know what he thinks it would generate. And he provided a report with information that he could gather. And I agree that there is possible revenue there, but I don't think it's enough for the risk that we have, no matter where this is. And I would respectfully ask, if we do not vote to opt in, I would ask my fellow board members because we're not, I mean, I think the question is a little bit more than Trustee Nero stated. I think the question is, does Westmont want this? Not, do we want this? And I would ask, if we voted, if we didn't vote to opt out, I understand that there is zero cost to put this on a referendum in November at a regular election and ask the community, which would be a non-binding referendum, but that non-binding referendum would truly be the opinion of all of those people in our community to give their voice. And then from that voice, the board would have the ability to go back and act on that, to either shut this down or continue. I think, you know, and I made notes when people were talking, and I changed what I was gonna say based on things that were already presented, but I think that at this point, while we don't wanna be too late to the game, we also don't wanna jump into the pool till we know if it's the deep end. So I would respectfully ask the board to consider that. I don't know, with the attorney's help, maybe we could make that motion clearly, or if I'm not allowed to do that at all.
It's not on the agenda tonight, so it's something that certainly board members can chime in on informally if they so choose. Otherwise, you can ask that item be placed on a future agenda.
I sure would like to, whether, you know, if it was on a future agenda, I sure would like to, I would sleep much better if I knew that was a possible option in the future. If I left here tonight knowing that there was some thought to consider that.
And I asked the attorney, is there anything, if we don't decide to opt out, we do the referendum and it's overwhelmingly against or for, can we opt out then?
Which we have a history of that.
Yeah.
We asked the community what they thought with
Home rule and some other things.
Yeah, and the answer is yes. You can choose to opt out at any time. And it's my opinion, if there is one or more dispensaries or other adult use cannabis businesses in town as a result of a decision not to opt out initially, those businesses would be grandfathered under the zoning regulations, and unless the state says that they don't recognize the zoning grandfathering and pulls their license, they'd be allowed to continue here. It would just be no new businesses could come in once you opt out.
So there is an option that we could deny it later on?
Correct.
Or, okay, I'm just clarifying that.
Let
Yes.
me,
Oh,
one more thing, and then I think Trustee Nero wants to say something too. I do a lot of work in the parks, and over these last several weeks, I probably have talked to about 125 people. Just stopping them, people I know, and asking them their opinion. I have had 2 people say no, and all the rest have said yes to me. Now, that's only 100 and some people. That's not a monster sampling, but it's the sampling that I have. I also ask all of you to look at the email from Scotty Johnson. Scotty was a neighbor at one time. He's one of the best barbecue cooks in the country. He's a winner of the Westmont Red, White, and Barbecue. The name of his team is called Cancer Sucks, because he lost his wife to cancer. That's why I said I can tell a lot of horror stories just like these folks have told. Scotty has sent us an email saying to opt into this thing, because if this was available at the time that she was alive, it would have helped her. Okay? Now, again, these are personal choices, but that's why I made the motion as a positive motion to, if you wanna opt out, you vote yes. If you wanna opt in, you vote no. I think I said that right, John?
Correct.
Just vote no.
Everybody's in.
Yes means no.
Opt-in is-
If there was no vote, everybody, you're automatically in unless you take a vote to opt out.
Right.
The question is to opt out.
Yeah.
And so I made a positive motion on the opting out. Okay.
Trustee Nero.
Just two comments. Thank you, Mayor. I did want to obviously appreciate everybody's involvement here in the process. I think it's probably the most folks that we've had involved in a Westmont decision since I've been on the board. But it's a shame that all the folks that emailed me, and ever since I first got elected, I made it a pact to respond to each and every person. And this is the first time I wasn't able to. I was traveling for work at a conference, was real busy. But it was amazing to me how many opt-in that we got unsolicited from me, whether it was through Facebook, whether it was through text messages or emails to our village email, from folks that I really value their opinion on. And quite frankly, I was shocked that they were going to feel that way about it. I'm not going to mention names, but I can tell you we're talking over 50, 60 people that are, parents, very involved in the community, folks that we know that might, make you think, wow, I wasn't expecting that. And to me, I'm here to represent what's good for the village, the entire village. And it might not be good for everybody, but I have to make my decision based on what I think is good for the most people here in town, the most voters here in town. And that's how I've always taken this job, taken this role very seriously. And I think that's important to understand. As to the referendum comment, and Bruce and I had a good conversation about this, although I love putting things to vote and having the people truly decide, I think in this situation, by that point, next year, and this is why I wouldn't support that, is then we're for sure not going to get something. We're going to miss the vote at that point. So that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
I also want to thank everyone from coming out, and I want to reiterate, the state made it legal. It's legal like alcohol, it's legal like tobacco. We can't stop people from using it in our village, and I just want to make that point clear. It is the state made that decision, and come January 1st, I believe, it is going to be legal. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other?
Mr. Mayor, I have a
Trustee
few
Barrett.
things that I documented and wrote down, and, when we testify at planning and zoning, we're under oath. When we come up here, we're not necessarily under oath. So I heard there's a 6% increase in traffic accidents. I heard there's a 100% increase. I heard there's an 80%, and I heard there's a 15% increase, okay? So I heard a lot of different numbers from different taxing, how it's hurt Colorado. I find that to be the opposite of in my research, okay? I strongly feel that the federal government has it wrong. I feel that the way we see these states just dominoing one after another, it's only a matter of time before the federal government is going to do it. The idea and the hypocrisy in our country is one of the things that makes me smile every day. The fact that cigarettes are legal and alcohol, there is no more poisonous drug out there than alcohol. If I had my choice in my community to have alcohol, cigarettes, or cannabis, I'd take cannabis any day of the week. I mean, that's the least harmful out of those three. It is by far the least harmful out of those three, factually, not off the top of my. Alcohol is the hardest thing to kick. Anyone who's ever seen somebody go through DTs or anything like that, it's horrific. It's horrific. We've heard a lot about addiction. It's actually habitual. It's habitual. It's not addictive. We should all remember that from health class, okay? It is a habitual drug.
Excuse me.
Okay. Okay.
Please, we didn't interrupt you. Let him finish.
And marijuana has been around since Indian smoking with peace pipes. It is a natural, product. I've heard chemicals. I've heard, marijuana-free city that this should be. It's as every trustee has stated, it's not going to be a marijuana-free city. We can't put a border around this and say you can't have marijuana here. You can go to Darien and buy it and bring it right home. And you could sit in your front yard and do it without anyone saying that it's, whether we have a dispensary or not. So, you know, again, everyone I think got copied on all the emails. I've tallied them up. I actually had 68 emails 68 emails for the good, okay? I have 71 against, but I also have 13 phone calls for and 2 phone calls against, okay? So. To her, you know, again, our numbers are published publicly and easily accessible here for the village. But, so those are the numbers that I received. I'm with trustees that I've heard from. Bruce, you know, we talked at length today, and I appreciate your stance on it. And I'm with Steve, where I think if we wait for a referendum or something like that, and ultimately, I know a lot of people are going to be upset, but I think the chances of Westmont actually landing one are pretty slim to none, you know, and I think it'd be great if we got one. A lot of you may know, or everyone on the board knows my personal story. My wife has been very ill. She's had many, many surgeries and a lot of complications from those surgeries. She's almost withered away to, I think, around 80, 90 pounds, okay? Through all those surgeries and everything, she was prescribed a lot of opioids, okay? And those opioids had taken a toll on her and taken a toll on all of our whole family, really. In August, her doctor got her the marijuana medical card, okay? And this is just as of August 15th. It is amazing how it's changed her life. It's amazing. She's starting to get her quality of life back. She's eating, she's sleeping. They don't have her on heavy THC stuff. There were. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, you know, for her now, sometimes she's debilitated. The closest place she can go is Addison. That's where she's registered to. A lot of these same products that she's going to be able to use will be able to get at the recreation store, okay, that she could get hopefully right here in Westmont or close in Darien or wherever that would be. So as you can tell, and I riled up the crowd, so I know I'm doing a good job, because they say if you get some action, then you're stating some good stuff. But that's my stance on it, Mr. Mayor. And like I say, you know, a lot of different things here, and I'm sure we could argue all back and forth, you know, pros and cons of it. But the state has already taken care of that for us. We've heard that time and time again here. We are not the ones to debate that. The state has taken care of that for us. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Anybody? And again, this is the time the board had an opportunity to talk. We listened to you, and I don't reopen it up unless a board member requests. And I said that in the beginning. If a board member wants to ask you a question, they have the right to do that. So at this point, there's no discussion back to the board. That's the way we've been operating since I've been mayor. So.
Obvious mistakes in the state.
You're done. Yeah. I'm
Mayor,
sorry.
may I comment?
Yes.
I think we still have it, right? I do want to say that this is a very good board. It's that simple.
Thank you.
It's a very good board.
It's not what you told me on the phone today.
It is true. That is untrue, Mr. Barry.
He's teasing you.
It is a very good board.
And again, I want to echo appreciation. I received a number of emails. This is Hopkins, or I think Cynthia. I received a lot of information from you, referring to reports, a lot of other individuals in here. I have received a lot of residents too. That a lot of times what happens at meetings, it's usually the antis that show up, and it's like that everywhere. You had a meeting to zone residential up at the golf course. Nobody for it showed up, but 50 people showed up to say you can't do that, and half of them were from Oak Brook, and so that's usually the case. But we did get plenty of emails, and we read them all. So I think this board is has researched it. I know Trustee Barker has done a tremendous job researching it, and he has his opinion, which we all respect. So at this point, does anybody else have? And again, I'm sorry, we don't open it back up for discussion, because it'd be debating back and forth. I shouldn't let anybody else ask for a vote. Yes. If I do, I'd open the door. At this point, there's no other comments, I'd ask for a vote. Okay, a yes vote is to opt out.
Trustee Addington.
No.
Trustee Barry.
No.
Trustee Little.
No.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Guzzo.
No.
Trustee Nero.
No.
Motion passes. Moving on the agenda, I need.
Motion fails.
Motion fails, I'm sorry. Motion fails. I'm not used to that, but the motion fails. And I do need, this is the last item, I do need a motion to adjourn the executive session to discuss purchase of property for the use of the village pursuant to Section 2, C5 of the Open Meetings Act. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Addington.
Second, Barry.
Motion made and second to adjourn the executive session. Roll call, please.
Trustee Addington.
Yes.
Trustee Barry.
Yes.
Trustee Little.
Yes.
Trustee Barker.
Yes.
Trustee Guzzo.
Yes.
Trustee Nero.
Yes. I have to inform everybody that there will be no further business at the end of the meeting. Thank you.